Hi everyone, I'm Anthony O'Flynn. How you all doing? Hope you're having a great Easter. I'm here at Springbrook. We're running our annual Easter retreat and just taking a bit of a break from that at the moment with the teaching. So yeah, we've got a great group. People are really committed to their path and very disciplined group, this one. And people have come from Sydney, Melbourne. There's also someone here from New Caledonia. I don't know if they've come just for the retreat, but it's silent, so I'm not talking to people and really getting to know where they're from and so on. But yeah, so this is in the forest, which is part of the property the retreat's on. And it's just a really incredible forest. The light's going a little bit now, but I'm heading down to the waterfall. So, and they just walked through a spider's web. So hopefully we'll get to that in this video. So just thought I'd make a video sharing some musings that I'm having, some time out, contemplation, introspection at the retreat, and share with you some thoughts I'm having about how things are in the bigger picture and what's going on with the global situation, which 2024 is really proving to be everything that I expected and more. But as I do think the loosh will intensify, we have to keep centered on what's really important and not all these endless distractions, which they're like candy, mind candy, and they don't really give any really productive fruits. Might just turn this around so you can see the forest, because I've got to look at the ground a bit, which I don't seem to be able to do. All right, that's weird. So the distractions from what's really important, which are like mind candy and are ongoing and really sudden things showing up that are not expected, and at the same time preparing for what's unfolding, which there's been obviously a big focus on for a lot of people on prepping. Just got off the path here somehow. And which I understand and I do agree with, definitely to a degree. But what about the spiritual prepping? And what about the commitment to meditation, yoga, mindfulness, doing the inner work, which is the real preparation, that's the real prepping, because we're just not going to get through this with 10 kilograms of rice and a bunker, and that's just actually the if you're only doing that, that's actually the whole elite, as I don't really like that word, but everyone knows what I mean when I say that. That's their way of thinking, that will just take care of everything in the physical plane, the physical dimension, and that's all that has to be done. And that's actually really showing a lack of wisdom as to what's really occurring at a global level. I mean, this paradigm is failing, and people seem to be more worried about the paradigm that's failing and more focused on it rather than the one that's emerging. And this is part of the distraction by design, to keep everyone sort of spinning their wheels, in effect, and not taking the real action to spiritually prepare and to spiritually develop at least be on that path as these events unfold, at least have the right techniques. God, there's a shortage of those, the availability of those. I mean, there's an endless array of pseudo-spirituality out there, but where that's going to take people is it's unclear. And so how are we prepping for these bigger events that will shape and define our soul and will colour us in a way, awaken us in a way that we can't really understand yet, but we can still follow all the traditional ways, the traditional methods which are foolproof for doing that, which is to do, techniques from Kashmir Saivism, Tantric yoga, sublimation of energy, mindfulness, presence, purification, all kinds of different kriyas to purify the bodies, the physical body, the pranic body, the emotional body, the mental body. This is the real prepping. And changing lifestyle, changing diet, making solid connections with people around you, these sort of things. I hope this isn't going to be too loud because we're coming to the waterfall now. I wanted to turn the phone around, but it's just, for some reason, I don't get that. Okay. And so, what does this mean for us individually? Well, everyone's going to have a different path. There's not one way of doing it, that's for sure. But at the level of causality, the effects are still going to be the same. And the effects are connecting with more elevated states of mind, purification from the lower states, creating more sustainable ways of living, which is not just environmental, it's also in terms of habits, behaviours, disciplines, and and all the other things that are so important. So behind me is the waterfall, you can probably hear it. Yeah, it's pretty amazing here. So this is actually part of the retreat centre. And the waterfall's got no fence or anything like that. I'm about, 7 metres from the edge, maybe less actually. So connecting with nature is another one, and this is the first chance I've had to get down here this year. It's really quite busy running the retreat. It's not a holiday by any means. So there's always lots of little things to prepare for and arrange. And yeah. So this paradigm is in terminal decline, and there's nothing we can really do to change that. I had an event last year, and someone asked me a really, really profound question, which I actually touched on in my book. The question was, I'm going to come out of here out of the way because it's a little bit loud. So someone asked me, should we stand up against this globalist agenda? And we've just had the digital ID bill go through in Australia just a few days ago without any debate or questions apparently. And apparently even some of the Liberal senators didn't even bother to show up for it. Says a lot, doesn't it? But so this question was, should we stand up and speak out against this, or just get out of the way of it and let the events unfold? And it was a really, really profound question, actually, when you think about it. If you have the understanding and the awareness that the current systemic crisis that we're in, it will only intensify throughout this decade. It's inevitable. I mean, for example, at a more global level, the US is printing $1 trillion every 100 days, adding to their debt, and something like 40%, around 40% of all dollars in circulation were printed in the last year. Which, I mean, that statistic, I mean, it is so dire that the effects of that the consequences of that will be quite profound. But here we are. I mean, this is not going away. I mean, at a global level, this isn't just something that's going to affect the US population. It's going to affect the whole planet. But the point is that what should we do in terms of speaking out or getting out of the way of it? And there's another dimension to that as well, which is co-creating a new paradigm. So there's really three aspects to this. In a sense, it's in a triad. Personally, I don't think that just getting out of the way of it is the solution. I think that's a little bit too much of a meek, cowardly course of action, because it's really just focusing on yourself if you take that path. I'm just going to get out of way of it and look after myself and prep and all the rest of it. I can understand why people think like that, particularly if you're only around people who are completely indoctrinated and have no real understanding of what's occurring. I get that. But where is your heart in all this, and where is your humanitarian values to have that option alone? The other option of speaking out against it and being an activist and all these sorts of things, I agree with that as well, but that's only going to take you so far as well, unless you can accumulate economic, social, or political power. I've made a whole video on that topic alone, because it's just really the power structure defined in those three different aspects: political, social, economic. So I think that is important as well, but not the only course of action. In fact, I think it's a combination, a little bit like three circles, and the intersection point is where all of those meet. But there is something to be said for getting out of the way of this, but there's also something to be said for being a voice for sanity and truth in this time, because if you don't say nothing, then that's just complying to this insanity, which we'll start to see the fruits of that more and more as time passes. And this thing is not 100 years away or 20 years away or a generation away. This thing is coming very quickly, and it's happening this decade. So the relevance here, particularly in Australia, is the digital ID is the first step towards CBDC, central bank digital currency, and they need everyone to have the ID before they can move on to the next step. So there will be certain encouragements and restrictions eventually if you don't comply with this. Now, this hasn't become law yet. It's got to go back down to the lower house in the federal parliament, and then it's got to be signed like the royal assent before it actually becomes law. So I don't hold out a lot of hope, to be honest, that this will somehow be stopped. I think the Australian people are extremely apathetic, extremely complacent, and have proven this again and again over the course of the pandemic. But I'm actually fascinated to see where the line in the sand will be for people when they start to realise the digital prison that's being built and what they will take around that en masse. But there is time, because it will take some years to implement this thing fully. And they always test these systems before they are sort of more widely used. So there is time, but how much time? We're not talking decades. We're not talking 7 or 8 years. Definitely there is time to repeal legislation and so on. But I think when I look at how much people value convenience, and that is actually the carrot that's dangled with the globalist agenda, because everything is based on convenience. It's so convenient to just pay for goods and services with your phone, with your credit card, all these sorts of things. And that really is the method of control, is laziness, actually inertia. And it works. But when people start to realise where this is genuinely going, as far as the potential abuse of office with CBDCs, abuse of power, as far as that the currency that you have is digital, it can have a use-by date, therefore you can't save. You can have restrictions on the amount of certain products you can buy. It's all going to be programmed digitally. It'll be categories. Products will be categorized in certain things. For example, this the global warming agenda is tied in with this to stop people eating meat and so on, and consuming animal products, this sort of thing. So there will be a code on every product that's sold, and you'll only have a quota of certain amount of products you can buy per month, or however it's going to work per week. And that will be the same as traveling, even petrol, because once it goes digital, it can all be controlled very, very easily, because there's no other option of paying with cash. So this also means that there can be geo-fenced, as far as the currency means you cannot spend it out of a certain area, which is your local area. And this is actually really simple to implement once it's digital. And that's really part of the method of control that will be used. So I don't really say this is an alarmist point of view. They're just my musings overseeing, where things are going, at least here in Australia. And the other thing is, which I'll speak about in another video, is the land value increases. I've just had my home, from the land value, I have to look at the document and get the details clearer, but whatever organisation it is, it's the government. And they put up the value of my land considerably, a lot. So much so that I'm jumped 2 brackets in the rates. I've completely skipped one and gone into another one. And, obviously that's going to cost me more money each year in just rates. And by the way, I don't seem to get any more value for money from paying that extra amount. I don't seem to get any improvement in the services or in the infrastructure or anything like that specifically benefits me from paying all that extra money. And there has been quite a lot of backlash about that already. I think that's going to be a big thing in terms of the local councils, at least here in Queensland. I don't know the situation in the other states, but that's very interesting as well. So we see more and more taxes, basically, diminishing of purchasing power through the dollar, an increase in cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin, dramatic spike in the price of gold, even silver's following it a little bit, not that much, but we're seeing and we're living through this decaying reality, which is the Kali Yuga, which is the Iron Age, which I've been speaking about a little bit here at the retreat, not too much, but just a little bit, and the welcoming of the Satya Yuga, of the Age of Truth. Satya means truth in Sanskrit, and it will be turbulent, it will be chaotic, and all the love and lighters who think that, you shouldn't focus on anything negative and you're making this a reality and everything, well, it's true to some extent, but the mechanisms for implementing some of these processes, such as the digital currency, are well and truly much more advanced than what it appears. And this is reality as to what's occurring. And the only way to actually co-create a better reality is to get informed about these topics and start having a conversation around them so the wider community understands what's really going on. And burying your head in the sand as we go through this is a recipe for personal and collective disaster. And you cannot solve a problem until you acknowledge that there's a problem there. And it doesn't matter what or how you navigate that. But this comes back to this question that this person had at this event I ran. And it really is, in my view, a matter of doing both, getting out of the way of this where you can, and also being vocal about it. So both are true, both are valid, and also the third one, which is perhaps the most important, is co-creating a new paradigm. There are real elements already in place, which I see, I won't go into in this video, it's getting a bit long already, that's actually happening, but it doesn't look like it, because the AI, the technology, and all the rest of it is being used for methods of control rather than methods of liberation, sovereignty, autonomy, these sorts of things. So I see some of the things that are happening as eventually a really positive outcome. And I'm also really positive about the events as they unfold as to how this is going to go for humanity as far as the bigger picture in the medium to long term. But the fact that they're closing branches, bank branches all over Australia, that they're taking out ATMs, and there's all these anecdotal stories of people struggling and find it difficult to get their money out of the bank, in terms of cash, that is. It's so obvious that this is where it's going, and it's going there quite quickly. It's not something that's 10 years away. So more businesses are going cashless, but at the same time, when I talk to people in various stores I go into and so on, they say that people are using cash more and more. So this is exactly what I'm talking about, is that there is this tension between the old and the new paradigm, which is inevitable and which is inherent in this birthing of this golden age, the Satya Yuga. And I think that we should learn to enjoy it more, that we should welcome the challenge, we should welcome the nefarious ways of the globalists are doing things. And I don't mean this from the point of view of celebrating evil, but I mean it from the point of view is that they're getting that desperate to keep the control, that they're actually pushing things along too quickly for their own good, which is having a really big backlash. And people are using cash much more, people are taking money out of the bank. All these sorts of things are a sign that there is this undercurrent of awakening, which you will not hear about if you watch the mainstream media. You won't hear about it if you just listen to all the fear porn, all that sort of thing. But we should celebrate that the measures are getting so desperate, and that the fact that this race it's not drawing to a conclusion, but it's definitely, we're very advanced now, that there will be a flashpoint at some moment when the house of cards crumbles. And it's impossible to say what issue that will trigger that, but at the moment, to me, it definitely looks like it's going to be the financial situation deteriorating. At least here in Australia, it's deteriorating rapidly. The housing crisis is just terrible. I really feel for all the people that are genuinely struggling now to have a roof over their head. It's heartbreaking to see that Australia has just lost its way. These politicians they are the most hideous people. I mean, they have no conscience whatsoever. The fact that they keep getting voted into power is a reflection of the unconsciousness of the masses, but these people are truly diabolical and really genuinely despicable in nature. But again, through this suffering, through this turmoil, the seeds of the chaos are the seeds of the new paradigm being born. And I don't wish anyone to suffer through this. It's not what I'm saying. It's not what I mean. What I mean is that we should welcome the fact that the light is emerging and people are taking action, and even the people here at the retreat this weekend, whether they're aware of these issues or not, they're working on themselves and working on their consciousness. And I am too, obviously. I'm doing the retreat as well. And all these things are to be celebrated. I mean, it's really like a small victories perhaps, but victories nonetheless, and that we can take personal responsibility for what we can do, what we can offer in the world, what light we can bring to the world, whatever that is in whatever way. That's our personal responsibility. And if we can all stand up and do this, then we will change the world one soul at a time, awakening. It's inevitable. It just doesn't really look like that yet, because there is so much turmoil that dominates the 24-hour news cycle, and some of these big things, these tectonic movements of big things, such as the complete decay of the US empire and the rapid decline of it, will dominate. But beyond that, if there's a vacuum, then the vacuum will be filled. And many people will think, yeah, exactly, that's when the next phase of this starts and so on. Perhaps, but the vacuum that is coming, the power vacuum at least, the financial vacuum, is in my view where the house of cards tumbles completely, and it triggers a situation that is completely out of control of the globalists, and it is not order out of chaos anymore. It's a destabilization of all institutions and systems, which changes the paradigm in an unexpected, unprecedented, and sudden way. And this eclipse coming up, it could be the catalyst for something big. I'm not making that as a forecast, but I am expecting the overall issue of the financial system to be the house of cards that touches everybody, affects everybody, and then there is a collective recognition that we've lost our way, and we need to create a new system, whether it's the blockchain, and this is what I'm referring to, saying some of these things are already in place with genuine peer-to-peer decentralized currency and so on. There is the potential for that. Let's see if that is realized. But anyway, there's so many more things to talk about, but I've got to get back up to the retreat because I've got things to do. It's getting dark now. Yeah, so I think it's just a matter of trusting the process at this point, and doing the spiritual prepping is really, for me, the most important thing. It is. It's the most important thing of all. And this blossoming of the soul, of opening of the heart, and all these really amazing byproducts of investing time in meditation, genuine meditation, in traditional yoga, in tantric yoga, in presence and mindfulness, and whatever other practices you feel called to do. This is going to be of huge benefit to remain in a state of equanimity and resilience as we move into the new paradigm. Thanks for watching. We live in epic times.